Me. My hardest is not dry out. Ah, no. I've lost all concentration.
Getting any of my heals.
I'll be fine. I can take it.
Yeah, for sure. 1 HP.
Yeah, as you lay there 90 degrees to
Okay, girls. Let's count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Shit. 2, 3.
The largest things in Minecraft are the farlands. In contrast to things like caves and villages, they have no size limits and can literally go on. The largest things in Minecraft are the farlands. In contrast to things like caves and villages, they have no size limits and can literally go on endlessly. Any Minecraft world created before version 1.8 will have access to the farlands, and any player can walk all the way and beyond them. So how far do the farlands extend, and what is on the other side? Well, in order to travel this far, we need to know how they generate in the first place. As a result of complex algorithms failing in versions 1.8 and below, at these specific coordinates the world warps and bends in many odd ways that are too complex to explain in this video, so we'll keep it concise. Minecraft uses an algorithm called 3D Perler noise to generate its natural terrain, and as you can see there are many pixels appearing and disappearing at once, and when 171.103 units are detected and recorded, it generates one single Minecraft block in your world. Repeating this constant cycle will end up generating an entire natural Minecraft world. But once this cycle hits the 32-bit integer limit of 2.17 billion, this equation fails. And taking the 32-bit integer limit and dividing it by the amount of units needed to generate a Minecraft block, the result is 12,550,824 blocks, the exact same coordinates where the farlands begin. Okay, enough of complex algorithms that are too complex for us to understand. So how far do the farlands stretch, and what is on the other side? The farlands. The main farlands stretch from 12 million all the way to 1 billion blocks, and the further you travel out, the weirder things seem to get. At this stage, modding is already required to get to the edge of the farlands, as Minecraft has an integrated world border at 30 million blocks that must be broken to travel further. As we near the edge of the farlands at 1 billion blocks, most things in Minecraft break down and simply stop working. These include lighting completely breaking down, redstone, string, rails and ladders all being stretched out. There are some other odd phenomena such as the cursed pistons and the hitboxes of objects breaking down, as well as the void-like texture of an end portal. All of this is just a fraction of what goes on this far out, but let's move on to the next type of farlands. The Fatherlands. The large distances between blocks at this stage can get a bit too much, so we use the farlands as a unit of measurement and will round it to 1 billion blocks. We can call this 1 farland. To add another sense of scale, we'll compare our large distances to real life scenarios with 1 block being equal to 1 meter. The edge of the farland stands at 1 billion blocks, which compared to real life is roughly the distance between the Sun and Saturn. The Fatherlands in our scale spans from 1 farland to around 53 million farlands in length. To put that into perspective, 53 million farlands is just smaller than one of the biggest stars in existence. Everything here really starts to break down, such as particles not being able to spawn in the right place relative to their block. The same problem also applies to end crystals, as they also spawn very far from where they were placed. Books of enchanting tables sometimes never open and will stay closed forever. Mob spawning and the AI for mobs completely breaks down as well as sleeping in a bed will occasionally put you somewhere else from where you actually slept. Getting to the edge of the Fatherlands requires more intense modding, as the 32-bit integer limit prevents any normal players from venturing any further. This is just the beginning, as the Fatherlands are simply the seeds for the Fartherer lands. The Fartherer lands are simply so far out from spawn, their size and range is way too large for us to perceive, but we'll try our best. The Fartherer lands span all the way from 53 million farlands all the way to 4.3 billion farlands in length. To put that into perspective, within this distance you could easily fit 4.5 Milky Way galaxies side by side. These are astronomical numbers, and it is safe to say that no one will ever walk beyond this distance, as the first ever person to walk to the normal farlands achieved it in just under 10 years. And yet, there is still a scale even above the amount of blocks we've already travelled. The farthest lands. This is the penultimate barrier to how many blocks can be physically travelled by a Minecraft player. The edge of the farthest lands is very key as to why no one thought it was possible to travel beyond them. The farthest lands range from 4.3 billion to 9.2 billion farlands in length. Compared to other jumps in numbers we've had, this may seem minor, but in fact is in another new level of distance in itself. in this block range you could comfortably fit around 10 Milky Way galaxies side by side. However, no one thought travel beyond the 9.2 billion Farland limit was possible, as this is also the 64-bit limit of many computer systems, as they refuse to generate any type of terrain beyond this point. It's time we end this insane competition and get to the final limit of Minecraft. The 1024-bit integer limit is the king of kings when it comes to the limits of Minecraft, and this is the finale. 1.8 times 10 to the power of 308, or in our scale 17.9 trillion Farlands in length. In a real life scale, that is almost 1% of the distance of the observable universe. The distance of this border from spawn defies the imagination of any human being, and it may very well be the largest distance ever possible to travel in any single video game ever. In any case, the Farlands are mysterious and huge in distance, and will stay as one of the biggest distances ever known to the video gaming community. Minecraft is very big and very strange. Hundreds of millions of blocks with distances as big as the universe itself, and in the middle of it all, there's you and us. As far as the Minecraft world may seem when looking beyond the Farlands, it gets even bigger when you're looking up or looking down. You are always walking above a vast space of seemingly infinite emptiness blocked by an unbreakable bedrock barrier called the Void. But is the Void really infinite? Well, let's take a dive. 3, 2, 1. After Y-64, you start to take damage of 4 hearts every half a second. A simple workaround to this issue would be constantly eating enchanted golden apples and free-falling into the void. However, this wouldn't work, as you would eventually run out. Let's pretend we don't need to worry about the damage and see how far we can really fall into the void. Minecraft's limit. Looking into the source code of the game, we can see that the teleport limit that Minecraft have set themselves is minus 20 million blocks, and trying to teleport any further down would result in an error. Some may think this is how deep the void goes, but if you teleport this deep, it is still possible to fall even further, so clearly this isn't where it ends. If we were to fall from Y-64 all the way to the 20 million block limit, it would take us around 3-4 days of falling into the void to reach this depth. However, to travel any further, we need to remove the 20 million teleport border, so let's take a quick dive into Minecraft's code. Here we can see that Minecraft's teleport limit is set to negative 20 million, so the most logical option would be setting it to a really high number, right? Wrong. Setting it to a really high number would cause the game to crash before it even starts. The workaround is setting it to 1.0 over 0.0, so Minecraft would read it as NaN, as dividing by 0 is impossible. This would mean that we would have no limit to teleporting into the void, so let's take a dive again into the infinite unknown. 3, 2, 1. The 32-bit integer limit. As I mentioned in the last video, the 32-bit integer limit is the main border in traveling blocks in Minecraft, whether it's beyond the Farlands or at the bottom of the void. Minecraft usually crashes at this limit because it's usually the max amount of numbers that Java can hold in its code. However, this rule may not apply millions of blocks deep into the void. Because we are 2.1 billion blocks into the void, Minecraft is not actually generating any new terrain, so the game will not crash. A new phenomenon that occurs at these depths is that in the void you no longer seem to take damage, so health is pretty much no longer a problem. As deep as the 32-bit limit may seem, when we teleport this deep we can still fall down, so how much deeper does it go? Well, falling from Y-64 all the way to the 32-bit limit will take us just under a full calendar year of constant falling to reach 2.1 billion blocks. So what other limits are there, and how deep do they go? The 64-bit integer limit. We are now all the way down at 9.2 quintillion blocks into the void. Before, it took us just under 1 year to reach 2.1 billion blocks, but at these depths, if you were to fall all the way down, it would take around 3.7 million years to fall all the way down to this depth. This is deep, because in 3 million years the Earth will slow down by a full minute, the giant star Betelgeuse will explode, and a supervolcano on our planet will
below or through the spikes in this spot, which is a lot of fun. This one gets an A, but a mirrored one. For the last coin, I'm sad to report that it's yet another spot where you randomly fall. The recovery portal is finally right side up, but this time there's 2 pink orbs which aren't supposed to be a thing yet. Fortunately, they don't obstruct the main path like Can't Let Go, but I still heavily dislike coins that use unintroduced mechanics. Combine that with the pretty lazy Trust Fall, and we're looking at another F tier. Okay, I promise things get better from here on out. Cycle's first coin is another fake wall that you just roll into, but for once there's actually more going on past that. You have to make a somewhat precise recovery after grabbing the coin, and it flows nicely without needing any helper portals or whatnot. I'm not too fond of the way you enter this one since I think it needs a bit more player input to feel alive, but also I'm just getting tired of fake walls in general, so I'm gonna put this one at C. The second coin is just pure skill, and I'm honestly so impressed by how well placed it is. You have to head through the gravity portal and immediately prepare for a well-timed swoop that feels so good to pull off. There's no extra objects needed for this coin, and it feels super fresh compared to the previous ship ones. S. The last coin's also really fun because it has both skill and memory aspects that go hand in hand really nicely. Part of the challenge for this coin is figuring out how you can get it, because it looks like it's completely out of bounds at first. You have to search around for the little cracks in the level design and figure out how to take advantage of them to get the coin and safely recover. It's fun to figure out and just as fun to actually collect. The coin isn't pure, but I'm really glad that it doesn't use fake walls or fake spikes or anything like that. Another S. Xstep's first coin is pretty similar to the second one in Cycles, since it requires a pretty risky swoop downwards that's a lot harder than it looks. It's simple and it's pure, and while it's easier than the one in Cycles, it can sometimes feel inconsistent, so we'll give it an A. There's definitely some challenge involved with the second coin, but it's kind of janky, so I don't usually go for it. The hitboxes are a lot weirder than what you'd expect them to be, and while a lot of wall coins have that problem, it's especially prevalent here. D tier, and I still stand true to my point in the GD Mechanics video that you should get this coin from entering the Q portal upside down. The third coin is another one of those blind drops, but this time it's done super right. The coin is always visible, and it serves as a huge hint for what you need to do. I'm not a big fan of this blue orb, since by the time it's visible in the camera, it's already too late. It could have easily been replaced with a pad, and although that makes it easier, I think it's well worth it since it's the main mechanic of Xstep in the first place. Also, it sends you directly into a yellow orb anyways. B-, mainly because of camera weirdness. Alright, that's 10 levels down for a total of 30 coins so far. With that, I want to quickly pause for what the nerds say is a call to action, which basically just means if you like what you're seeing so far, subscribe? ? Look, we're dangerously close to 500,000 subscribers, and as I always say, I don't even post that often, so there's not much to lose. I focus on quality over quantity, which is Canadian for I'm lazy. And if you're still not convinced, here's that one green screen everyone uses. Alright, that's all. At the very least, keep it in the back of your head. Let's keep going. I was kinda surprised to hear that a lot of people don't like the first coin of Clutterfunk, since I don't think it's bad at all. Maybe I'm just biased because I like pure ship coins that force you to take a harder route that you normally wouldn't take. I don't know, I'm giving this one an A because if you don't like it, that's just a skill issue. I don't usually get the second coin in this level, but I do think it's cool that it skips a gravity portal. However, the gimmick feels really overdone and the coin needs more going on in general. C. Third coin's just plain uncool. Not only do you have to blindly fall once again, but you have to keep holding since there's a series of blind jumps on the ground directly after. There's also, once again, no way to tell when you missed the coin, when it could have easily been placed out of reach on the main path. If it was like that and also maybe had this saw removed, I'd be a lot more fond of it. But otherwise, it's another F tier for reasons I've mentioned many times now. The first coin of Theory of Everything does a nice job building off the introduction of the UFO game mode, but I think it would have been a lot cleaner if the fake wall was just removed entirely. It probably didn't make sense to do that though, since the level existed before coins were added. It gets a B. Oh boy, this next coin is one hell of a challenge, and I love it. It's such a good application of mini ship, especially since it wasn't used all that much in Clutterfunk. It's also super well placed, and most importantly, it's consistently difficult. It's hard, but not far enough in the level for it to feel like a huge choke point. It's tempting, and that's good. Easy S. I originally didn't like this level's last coin, but as I was writing this video, it started to grow on me. You can tell where you're supposed to fall thanks to the missing saw blade, and then you're immediately thrown back up with jump pads. I think knowing where to fall is challenging enough in this case, since you have to jump over this really tempting looking jump pad. Also, putting orbs down there would just cause camera problems. The coin could definitely benefit from a clearer indication that you missed it, but either way, the missing saw blade is a huge step in the right direction, so we'll give it a B+. By the way, I don't know if I'm just crazy, but I always think this coin is further into the section than it actually is. Alright, we've reached Electroman Adventures, which means we're entering a whole new era of secret coins. All of the previous coins were edited into the level in Update 1.6, but from here on out, the levels were actually built with coins directly in mind. With that being said, let's see what we're up against. Coin 1 of Electroman makes some really good use of the breakable blocks, which definitely isn't something you see every day. It tries to throw you off with this down arrow as well as the general structure of the gameplay, but if you paid attention to how the breaking blocks were introduced, you might realize you can keep going higher. There's even a little more gameplay up there, which is much appreciated. I was gonna take off a few marks because the gameplay is a little hard to understand at first, mainly because of this block with the blue pad, but then I realized no, it's honestly fine. It's weird like once, but this path becomes second nature very quickly. It's hidden but very findable if you're paying attention, and because of that, I don't think the actual coin needs to be out in the open. I'm torn on whether to give this one an A or an S, but I might actually go with S because of how well it tricks your brain into focusing on the main path and ignoring the extra breakable blocks. Coin 2 comes directly after the first one, and this time it's just hidden away in a wall like we've seen many times already. I can't say I'm a fan of this one, mainly because the hitboxes of the corner blocks can be really confusing. There's definitely some challenge, but I wish it was in a more unique spot, like between two saws, so it's getting a D. The final, this one's not even worth my time. The first coin of Clubstep is completely free, and also less effort than taking the main path. Another F. Okay, wait, let's back up and talk about this one a little. First up, this is a demon level. You'd expect hard coins from it, and I'll be honest, this coin might look a little intimidating at first. It presents itself as a really precise looking coin, but once you get it, you realize that it's pretty much impossible to mess up. I almost feel like it would make more sense to redecorate this part and then move the coin to the normal path. Also, if you miss the coin, you can't do this cool jump, which, come to think of it, probably could have been tied to the coin to add an extra step. Whatever, you know what they say, it's not Clubstep without the L. Well, I mean, it's not an L, it's an F. You get the point. The second coin's an improvement, and this time going into a wall actually makes sense since it's a common theme in the level. The gameplay is pretty much identical to the normal route, but the background walls make the spikes even harder to see. I don't think this coin is anything crazy, but in the context of Clubstep, it just works. C tier. For Clubstep. I think the last coin of this level could be improved gameplay-wise, but I really like the idea behind it. If you reach this point in the level, you're probably shaking over the fact that you're at the very end, which on its own makes the coin so much more intense. It's an easy coin, but it requires some serious bravery to go for. I like the idea of having a choke coin here since it perfectly matches the energy of Clubstep, but only as a one-time thing because if you do this at the end of every demon level, it's just gonna get annoying. A tier, why not? Coin 1 of Electrodynamics is a pure one that's very straightforward. Take a slightly harder path, get a reward for it. It's fun and definitely satisfying to get, but I think a little more challenge would help make it shine. I'll be nice and give it a B though. Second coin, I'm just not really sure what's up with this one. The entire coin route feels kind of awkward, and especially the jump back to the main path. Fortunately, the placement of the coin is good, and I like how you enter it by skipping an orb that you'd instinctively press, so I'll bump it up to a D before you yell at me for handing out yet another F. The last coin is supposed to be a sort of heat of the moment coin that tests how fast you can react at triple speed. All you really have to do is skip an orb though, and it's about the same difficulty as taking the main path. It also leads into a blind jump and is overall pretty forgettable, but it plays off of a decent idea and is pretty clean visually, so I'll give it a C. The first coin of Hexagon Force is simple, but I find the way that you get there to be a little clever. I think this coin would be more justified if it was towards the end of the level, but for one that's placed right at the start, I think it needs more spice to it. C tier. Coin 2 is just plain unoriginal. It could have played off the new slope physics or something, but nope, it's just another generic wall coin. It flows well enough for a D, but that doesn't mean it's good. Finally, the last coin is, well, it's another wall coin. Pretty much a trick that it's completely stale by now. Like after looking at all the coins before this one, I'm completely sick of it. Not only am I giving this one an F tier, but I'm moving it to its own tier list along with every other coin that involves flying the ship through a fake wall and nothing else. Moving on to blast processing, I think the first coin is exactly what it needs to be. There haven't been any dual coins yet, and mixing one with the wave is a match made in heaven because you always feel in control. The dual makes this one look a lot harder to get than it actually is, but also way cooler. It's really satisfying. S. Coin 2 requires some interesting UFO timing, and the fake teeth is a nice touch. It could have been a fake wall, and I'm grateful that it's not. Not much to complain about here, I think it's perfectly well done. For some reason, whenever I get the third coin, I always tell myself, oh wow, that was a lot like the last coin. Which isn't necessarily true since they play out quite differently, but there's definitely some resemblance. It's also just kind of unoriginal, and nothing feels special about it at this point in the game. It would have been cool to see the spikes filled in, similar to Theory of Everything, but its current state is by no means terrible, so we'll give it a C. I'm gonna be real with you guys, I don't even know how to explain the first coin in Theory 2. Like honestly, I've stopped paying attention to what's going on. You just kind of learn how to get it, and then it becomes muscle memory. But it's a solid B, nothing that concerns me too much. The second coin's neat because I really like the timing that's required to get it, and it always feels super satisfying to pull off. Problem is, it's really hard to eyeball. The outlines for the wall need to be a lot stronger, because right now my strategy is to just blindly let go and hope that I'll make it through the opening. Maybe other people are able to see it more clearly, but I personally just go off of what feels right. And if that was the intent for this coin, I don't know if that's the best idea. I would have given this coin an A, but the lack of clarity in the outlines drops it to a C. Third coin is just a repeat of the second one from Jumper, but with more decoration. By this point in the game, going up there is just instinct, and I find myself doing it even when I didn't intend on it. The X on the yellow orb is kinda cheap, and delayed jump in order to recover from the coin, which is just a recipe for chokes this late in the level. I'm gonna have to give it an F because this level has a lot of untapped coin potential, and this one just wastes it. On the bright side, it does make it easier to beat the level with 3 coins so that you get this cool icon. Coin 1 of Geometrical Dominator is creative, and even a bit of a puzzle since you need to figure out how to get through the gap. The use of outlines here is a really nice break from the normal fake block style, and I'm glad that it was designed this way so that the path to the coin is a lot more clear. My main gripe with this coin is the bugs, because there's a lot of extra ways to fit through the gap, and most of them are unintended and really should have been accounted for. For example, you can just not jump and hit the gravity portal, which reveals some buggy behavior, or you can do a well-timed jump after picking up the coin to stay upside down all the way until the next cube part. This coin would have gotten a B or a B+, but the sheer number of bugs surrounding it drops it to a C, even if they are kind of fun. The second coin is kinda like the first one from Time Machine, but done super right. The high speed mixed with the floatiness of the robot game mode makes this one extremely fun to collect, even if it is really easy. You'll probably pass by it on your first playthrough, but it's enough to make you go, "Oh, that's clever, I'm gonna go for it next time." It's also completely pure, which helps it feel like this really graceful leap of faith with nothing to get in the way. I was debating taking off Mark since it's super easy, but it's also really satisfying and utilizes the robot game mode quite nicely. Not to mention, you actually have to make a bit of a conscious effort to get this one, so it's not free. Easy S tier, fight me. Not much to say about this last coin. I guess there's moving objects now, but it doesn't really add that much in this case. I'm just gonna put it in the D tier of the wall tier list we made earlier. Deadlock marks the first use of a key coin, where you have to grab the key in the ship part to unlock the area with the coin later on. These coins are a little controversial, because in a lot of cases you can just replace the key itself with the coin, since that's usually the hard one to get. Sure enough, it's super easy to grab the coin after picking up the key, but I'm gonna be nice with this one since it's the first time a key was used and it's kind of cool. The key itself is placed in a pure and really clever spot, requiring a well-timed swoop in the ship that always feels a little risky to pull off. Official levels never scale down their coins, so it actually makes a bit of sense to use a key here since a coin wouldn't fit without looking strange. It's weird that you don't get the actual coin until much later on, but I like that it opens up an alternate route instead of freely throwing the coin at you. I'm gonna give this one an A, but I might not be as generous with the future coins. The second coin requires falling through a wall and doing a series of well-timed jumps with the robot, and unlike most wall coins, I think this one is done right for once. The coin is pretty drawn out, and the fake wall is just a small part of it. The recovery onto the main path is super clean as well, and I like how it skips a gravity portal. I'm a huge fan of this invisible block since it only appears if you go for the coin, but it kinda tricks you into thinking that it's always been there. It's so much better than popping up an extra platform last minute and giving you no time to react. Overall, the robot timings for this coin feel very consistent with the rest of the level's gameplay, while still being harder and less straightforward than the main route. And best of all, there's very few elements to distract you if you're not going for it. Another very solid A tier. Okay, quick footnote, while editing I found that you can cheese the coin like this, and also like this. Doesn't change anything, I just thought that was funny. I could not think of a better design for the third coin. It's pure and so simple, but still super risky feeling thanks to the little boss laser. With a bit of practice, it's not hard at all to get, but it always feels really stylish when you do go for it. And if you miss it at first, you'll know exactly what to do the next time around. I've said it before, but I love coins that make you take a harder path without actually adding any more objects. S. Speaking of simplicity, the first coin of Finger Dash does this just as well. Even if you only learned how to control the spider a few seconds ago, the way you get this coin is immediately understandable. It's really tempting to go for, and I think that's because the only alternative is to do a slow walk of shame past it where you don't get to click anything. The coin is purely skill focused and very satisfying to grab. I'm glad it's sitting out in the open because I think adding extra distractions like a fake wall would have been super overkill. I'm gonna give this one another S, but I'll bump it down to an S- because I think this coin was placed under the assumption that it would be a lot harder than it actually is. It does the job for newer players though, since they usually head right into Finger Dash anyways. Coin 2 feels like it was a wall coin that got saved last minute and repurposed into something else, and I'm eternally grateful for that. Squeezing through the 2 fire bars looks really cool visually and helps tie the coin into the theming of the level instead of making it look like a last minute addition. Compared to the other ship coins, it's a huge step up, and for that it gets an A. You know, if there's one coin nobody forgets, it's this last one. There's 10 mini coins scattered throughout the wave part, and you have to pick up every single one in order to collect the big coin at the end. It's definitely a bit over the top, but that's what makes it so special. The actual wave gameplay here is very generic, so the addition of the mini coins makes it a lot more fun and engaging to play through. Like without the coins, this part would absolutely suck. It reminds me a lot of the rings from Mario, where you have to collect all the red coins for a reward. It's just extra optional fun. I think my favorite part is the fact that the mini coins disappear as soon as you miss one, so if you're not going for the coin, you won't have all this extra pressure getting in your way. This one's an easy S tier, and I wish more levels did something similar. Every now and then I see custom levels that try to do a coin like this, but they always put the collectibles in spots that are way too hard. It's not terrible, but I like having them positioned on the regular path without any weird deviations. For the first coin of 7 Seas, I'm gonna relax my expectations a little